everybody, it's Em. I am here to talk about 3 more books that I've read this month. I'm reading a 4th and I might finish it this week before the end of the month, but I'll save it for my next wrap up. In the meantime, we'll just talk about these 3. I know 6 books, how do I keep up? But I do have like a family and I'm also a writer, so reading isn't the only thing I do. I just like to talk about the books I do read. So for starters, we'll start with Queerbaiting and Fandom, which if you saw my last video, I discussed some of the questions that book brought up for me. When I read nonfiction, I have a slightly different criteria than for fiction. For nonfiction, I kind of keep in mind, was it interesting and informative? Like, was it not just giving me the basics that I could kind of figure out for myself? Was it more than a Wikipedia, amount of information? And then how readable it is. Queerbaiting and Fandom, because of my media studies background, and especially since I focused on fan culture, obviously it was very much in my wheelhouse. It is pretty academic, which not everybody may enjoy, but it suited my tastes and spoke to my interests and my background. So I gave it a 4.5 overall. Again, I'm used to reading stuff like that. It kind of took me back to my college days, so I enjoyed it. I don't know if everyone would like it. I do feel, like I said in the last video, that Sherlock's kind of low-hanging fruit to discuss when you're talking about queerbaiting. It seems like everybody wants to talk about that one, and Supernatural. Those are, the favorites of the moment. I think they're probably very, common examples, but overall, I thought it was a really interesting book and a good read. I didn't want to spend too much time on that one because I had done the queerbaiting video already, so we'll move on to the next book, which was The Love Con by Sricia Glass. I'm not sure how she says her name. If you watched the last wrap up, I tried Love, Comment, Subscribe, and so this one was at the library and I picked it up too. I'm trying to get into this genre. I love rom-com movies, so I kind of want to see if I can find the equivalent in books to amuse me and entertain me. This one is best friends to fake dating to lovers, I guess. The main character, Kenya, the main female character, Kenya, is a plus-sized black woman who, at the beginning of the book, has just made it to the final round of a cosplay reality show where she has to create costumes. And so for the final round, she's kind of put on the spot because it's announced that they need to have, a partner for the big finale, and she just out of thin air picks her best friend Cam. They've known each other since high school. It's a little confusing because Cam says, well, we've been friends since I was 13, but he also mentions that they met their freshman year of high school, and I'm like, I guess you could be 13 when you started high school. You'd be a really young freshman. My daughter will be 13 the first 2 weeks of high school, and then she'll turn 14, so I'm like, there's a window in there where you could be 13 and a freshman in high school, I guess. But anyway, so my guess is, based on them saying that and that they've known each other half their lives, they're 25, 26 years old in this book. And this really isn't a spoiler because it comes right out the gate that Cam has actually been in love with Kenya for real for a long time, so he's using this fake, on-the-spot opportunity to win her over. And I thought it was cute. Okay, so things I love. My husband's from a suburb of Atlanta, so I'm very familiar with Atlanta, and so that setting worked for me because I understood it. I guess there was some cultural stuff going on there. There's yeah, that's Atlanta. They mentioned Dragon Con and things like that. I love cosplay. I will maybe at the end of the video put in some photos of me in various costumes. If I do, I'm going to respectfully ask that you not do too many comments about my body, because I did once have disordered eating and I don't really need that kind of feedback from randos. I love you guys, but no. And so like I loved that aspect of it. Like I was there for the nerdy stuff and the fan stuff. And Cam and Kenya have a really seemingly, largely healthy relationship. Like he's very respectful and they love each other like friends. But the problem is, at least for me, the problem was that meant that there was very little tension in the overall plot. I didn't really have the tension of, ooh, are they gonna win or not? That, so the idea is that if they don't win, it could put, Kenya's dreams of being a costume designer, it could dash those. Her parents have tried to make her use her engineering degree, and she's feeling cornered into that. They've actually made her make a deal with them that if she loses the competition, that she will go get her master's and get a job in engineering and quit all this cosplay stuff kind of thing. And Cam owns his own company, and so the money, was supposed to help with that too, the prize money. So, but I didn't really feel any tension around it, even though they mentioned it a lot. I just didn't feel a lot of tension about, oh my gosh, there's a lot riding on this or anything like that. And I didn't feel a lot of tension about their relationship because they obviously loved each other anyway. So it wasn't really, for me, that, I don't know. It wasn't there for me. So, what was good was the representation, the acknowledgement of microaggressions that plus-size women, plus-size black women get on the regular, and especially when you're out in front of literal judges. That was really well done. I also, so these are adult books, I guess, but there seems to be this category. I know new adult quit being a thing. It's not really a thing. But with Love, Comment, Subscribe, they're 28, and in this, they're 25, 26 years old. So I do feel like there's kind of a new adult vibe, because in all of these books, there's kind of this sense of, first of all, there's hustle culture, which is clearly an issue that people of a certain age are dealing with. I feel like in the 80s, my parents' generation was doing the hustle thing, business or whatever, and Gen X, yeah, I'm that old, but Gen X kind of decided, we're not gonna do that, and now what we've got are the millennials, and they're doing it now, but instead of doing the hustle for big business, they're doing it more on the entrepreneurial side, and that's showing up in a lot of these books now, where it's gotta make it, because we've got a lot of creative people in the world, and they want to use their creativity, they want to use it to make money and make a living at it, and that's hard. I know, I'm an author, so I feel like that's a theme that I'm seeing, but I'm also just in these books, I feel like I say new adult because new adult, when I was talking to agents about it and learning about it, this was years ago, like I said, it kind of never really took off, but it was the sense, not just the age of the characters involved, but it was more the things they were going through, your first house, your starter marriage, your first big job, that kind of thing, and that's what these books feel like. They feel like this is a jumping off point for the rest of the lives of the characters. So I felt like it was kind of oh, maybe this is kind of more like new adult. So as I'm putting it into my spreadsheet, I've got it as adult, but I have NA in parentheses, because I do feel like adult and these books, there's a definite, this is a subcategory of adult books, I feel like. Right? More so than just being rom-com, I feel like it's a subcategory in the sense of they're like a specific kind of adult book, like for a specific time in a person's life, that quarter life crisis kind of thing that was going on a few years ago or something. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just my take on it. Let me know if you see new adult as a thing or not a thing. Do you see it in bookstores? I don't think I see like new adult signage in bookstores or, you know, things categorized that way. But I do still sometimes read something and think, oh, well, this feels very new adult to me. I forgot to say I gave The Love Con a 3.0, three stars, solid, even. It was a good book. It wasn't a great book. I liked it, didn't love it. It had, you know, pros and cons kind of thing. So overall. Anyway, the last thing I've read is actually the first volume of Absolute Boyfriend, which is a 6-volume manga series. I've got the rest of them lined up here. It's these volumes were published in 2006, but the actual series started in 2003 in Japan, and it definitely shows its age. It's very tropey. It's just exactly the kind of thing you would expect. Well, let me give you the setup. It's about a high school student named Riko. She's desperate for a boyfriend. She gets rejected by this guy that she tries to declare her love to. So she ends up getting a free trial of a mail order boyfriend that turns out to be a very realistic kind of AI. She names him Knight because he comes from a series called Night Lover, I guess. And she was just like, okay, I'm just going to call you Knight. It turns out she can't pay for it when the free trial runs out. She doesn't have the money to pay for him, and they say, well, you can't return him because he's used even though they didn't do anything. So to pay for keeping this fake boyfriend, this AI boyfriend, she basically agrees to let them data mine her. They're like, okay, so we're just gonna like get data from your interactions with Knight so as we create more of these, we can refine them and make them better and, you know, more pleasing to the women who we're going to try to sell them to. So it's very, the minute I explained it to my husband, he's like, oh, it's Chobits. And I think a lot of people have probably gone, oh, well, it's Chobits, but for girls. And, you know, I haven't read or watched Chobits in years, but it's a similar idea, I guess. There's also a neighbor boy, Soshi. So Riko lives alone. Her parents are... I don't know why this happens in Japanese manga so much. I don't know. I guess we talk about it in YA when it's like, oh, and the parents are always dead. Well, in Japanese manga, the parents are gone. Sometimes they're dead, but sometimes they're just like left their kids to live alone, I guess. I don't know if that's a thing that actually happens in Japan a lot. I have read some real stories where like, oh, the parents gave the son or daughter an apartment closer to their school or something, you know, that kind of thing. So I guess it does happen. But anyway, since Riko lives alone, there's a neighbor boy named Soshi who checks up on her because he and his younger brother also seemingly live alone. And she's known Soshi since they were like in grade school. So she kind of takes him for granted. He brings her food from the restaurant he works at and things like that. So there's that, right? People are like, well, why don't you just date Soshi? And she's like, oh, but I've known him forever. He's not cool, whatever. It's all very tropey. It's all exactly, as I said, what you would expect from this kind of thing. But it was exactly what I wanted to read at the time. Like, it wasn't... There's, obviously some casual sexism. At one point, the guy who sells Knight to Riko, he says something like, but you want love and romance before sex, right? Girls sure are complicated. Ha ha. It's just like, it's kind of groan-worthy, but at the same time, you just gotta laugh because it's, I don't know. I thought it was funny just for being ridiculous, but that's just me. It's got some, let's see. I mean, it's YA, I guess, but with a lot of like nudity, sex humor. At least there is like discussion of consent, because Knight comes out of the box like, oh, time to have sex, and Rico's like, no thanks. And he's like, okay, well, you know, a good boyfriend doesn't force himself on his girl. And I'm like, okay, well, that's something. I guess that's good. There's a lot of casual violence, as is pretty typical of manga and anime, you know, where Rico's like smacking Soshi around, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it was cute. I recognize the flaws in it. Like I said, it's like almost 20 years old now. It definitely shows its age in the kind of story it is and its take in certain ways. But overall, like, super easy read. I sat down and read the first volume inside of an hour. And so I should be able to, like, bust through these others pretty quickly. No worries there. I gave this one a 4.0 because, again, I've mentioned I'm a little more lenient with manga. If I'm enjoying the story, like, it's entertaining to me, and if the characters are drawn in such a way that I can tell them apart and, like, the panels aren't, like, too confusing, because I do read some where I'm just like, I don't understand the action that's happening here. Like, I can tell something's happening, I can't tell what. So sometimes I deduct for that. But overall, yeah, it was solid, and I enjoyed it. I'm still reading Keep Sharp. I need to finish that because I promised my book club that I would report back to them all the ways to keep sharp. So that's on tab 2, and then I've got a stack of other things. And that's my other cat, and she doesn't normally meow like that, so I'm gonna go check on her. And I will see you next time. Who knows what we'll talk about then.